about a new version of the creation of the world. It goes like this. On the first day, God created the cow. God said to the cow, "Today I have created you. As a cow, you must go to the field with the farmer all day long. You will work all day under the sun. I will give you a lifespan of 50 years. The cow said, "Whoa, the kind of tough life that you want for me for 50 years? I don't think so. Let me have 20 and you can have the 30 back." God agreed. On the second day, God created the dog. God said to the dog, "What you're supposed to do is sit all day by the door of your house. Any people that come in, you will have to bark at them. I will give you a lifespan of 20 years. And the dog said, "Whoa, all day long sit by the door? No way. Give me 10 and you can have the 10 back." God agreed. On the third day, God created the monkey. God said to the monkey, "Monkey, you have to entertain people. You've got to make them laugh and do monkey tricks. I'll give you 20 years lifespan." And the monkey said, "No way, entertaining people for 20 years? I'll take 10, you take the other 10 back." So God agreed. On the fourth day, God created man and said to him, "Your job is to sleep, eat, and play. Sleep, eat, and play. You will enjoy life very much. All you need to do is just enjoy and do nothing. The kind of life that I give you, 20 years. And the man objected. "What? Such a good life? Eat, play, sleep, do nothing? Enjoy the best, and you expect me to only live 20 years? How about this, God? I'll make you a deal. The cow gave you back 30, the dog gave you back 10, the monkey gave you back 10. How about if I take them from you? That will equal 70 years, right?" And God agreed. And that is why today, in our first 20 years, we eat, sleep, play, enjoy the best, and do nothing much. For the next 30 years, we work all day long, suffer, and get to support the family. For the next 10 years, we entertain our grandchildren by making monkey faces and monkey tricks. And for the last 10 years, we stay at home, sit in the front of the door, and bark at people. As we've been talking about, we're doing something new here in the new year, on this, the third day of the new year. Now, I realize that some of you are probably doing pretty well with your New Year's resolutions. You're probably thinking to yourself, even if I have fudged a little bit, it's still time to get back on track, hopefully. And in the spirit of something new, you might have noticed that we've been doing music a little bit different. Before worship, we have a different order of songs here during worship. We also have a pictorial directory. We have not done a directory in 6 years. And so we're doing something new. So we invite you to continue to sign up for that. And likewise, we're starting a new sermon series from one of my favorite TV shows, Gilligan's Island. Specifically, the 7 deadly sins, according to Gilligan's Island. Now, it's interesting, as a child, when I would watch this in reruns, I never put the two things together. 7 castaways, 7 deadly sins. That was until the internet came out. All you have to do is type in 7 deadly sins and Gilligan's Island, and you're going to get plenty of articles, plenty of examples, all kinds of ideas about this topic. In fact, this was even mentioned in a 1978 made-for-TV movie called Rescue from Gilligan's Island. So, if you could go ahead, Colleen, and share what they have to say here. And we're just going to watch about the first 30 seconds.
Envy, sloth, anger, gluttony, and pride. The same 7 deadly sins that have always plagued mankind.
It's funny, Professor. We never had those problems back on the island.
Well, that's because we learned how to live with each other.
Most of you have probably never even heard of Gilligan's Island. Why is that?
So already, even people were picking up on this idea as they're watching the show. So when they did the remake of The Castaways, they talked about the 7 deadly sins. Now, I do have a warning for you. When you are searching for 7 deadly sins and Gilligan's Island, you are going to find all kinds of theories all over the map. And now there's some that is pretty universal. The skipper always goes with anger. The movie star, Ginger, always goes with lust. But everything else is just one person fits this character, this castaway with this sin. Another person fits this castaway with another sin. But one thing I found is that, this is not an exact science. You think about it, this is a comedy. And to typecast just one character into a deadly sin, I don't think would work. I think 1 week it worked for Gilligan to be very hungry, and another week to work for him to be very lazy. So what we're going to do over the next 7 weeks is we're going to illustrate each deadly sin. We're going to focus just on one deadly sin, and then we're going to find an example of it in the TV show Gilligan's Island. And we're also going to do it in the order of the theme song. So, is everyone remember? Are you ready? Let's sing. Just sit right back and hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour. The weather started giving rough, the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship set ground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle, with Gilligan, the skipper too, the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, the professor and Mary Ann, here on Gilligan's Island. Wow, yeah. You realize that show came out in the 60s, and you know that theme song? Do the Brady Bunch. I'll jot that down, Jen. Thank you. Well, we're going to begin with Gilligan, representing the deadly sin of sloth. There's a story about a painter by the name of Jack. And Jack was always trying to make a buck whenever he could by thinning his paint down the best that he could. And he got away from it most of the time. Until one time he was hired by a large denomination. And they wanted him to paint some of their largest church buildings. And since he submitted the bid and it was the lowest, he was hired. And so he erected the trussels and the planks, and he began to apply the paint, and he thinned it down with turpentine. Jack was up there on the scaffolding. He was painting. In fact, he was almost done with that first church building when there was thunder. The skies opened up and rain poured down, and it washed all of this thin paint right off that church building. It was such a powerful storm, it knocked poor old Jack right off that scaffolding. There he sat among all of these gray stones that were around this church, and puddles of thinned, useless paint. Now, Jack was no fool. He knew that this was judgment from the Almighty, and he got on his knees and he says, "Oh God, forgive me. What should I do?" And with that, there was a loud thunder and a voice from the skies that said, "Repaint, repaint, thin no more." Sloth. Now, many today don't use that word. I bet if I would have brought that up with our children this morning, they would have not known what sloth is. As they identified, lazy. Laziness is the word that we identify with this race. So why is sloth, why is lazy a deadly sin? Now, throughout this sermon series, we're going to be working with a specific definition of the deadly sin. A deadly sin does not move us any closer to God. In fact, it keeps us away. It keeps us very different. A deadly sin does not make us a better person. And in fact, it is deadly to our faith life. And we can find scripture to back this up. Bruce?
The scripture that we were able to find was in Proverbs, 24th chapter, verse 30 through 34. "I walked through the fields and vineyards of a lazy, stupid person. They were full of thorn bushes and overgrown with weeds. The stone wall around them had fallen down. I looked at this and thought about it and learned a lesson from it. Go ahead and take your nap. Go ahead and sleep. Fold your hands and rest a while. But while you're asleep, poverty will attack you like an armed robber.
Thank you, Bruce. One of my favorite stories, talking about school starting up here this week, has to do with the first grade class. And in this classroom, there was a show and tell. And the first boy stood up and said, "I'm Jewish and this is a matzah ball." Second boy said, "I'm Catholic and this is a crucifix." The third boy said, "I'm a Methodist and this is a casserole." I think we can relate to that. We have a dinner and we feel obligated to participate. When the church has a need, we step up and we do it. In the nursing home, I have these conversations with parishioners. They have worked all of their life for the church and they still want to be active. But now their body, their health doesn't allow them to stand all day at the counter to help out the kitchen. The arthritis in the fingers does not allow them to sew, does not allow them to do just basic maintenance around the church. I have had these difficult conversations with individuals that work all their life to be independent and active, and now they just cannot. In 17 years of professional ministry, this is a consistent value. We are not lazy people. Sloth, the deadly sin, goes against our Midwest ethic, our rugged Western Nebraska roots. We know how to work, and we take pride in being very active people. But what about when it comes to our faith life? Are we just as active? Do we continue to grow in our relationship with God, even into our retirement years? Now remember that definition that we're working with here. If it does not move us closer to God, if it does not make us a better person, then it is a deadly sin, specifically sloth. It's a story about a man that whispered and said, "God, speak to me." And a meadlark sang, but the man did not hear. So the man yelled, "God, speak to me." And the thunder rolled across the sky, but the man did not listen. The man looked around and said, "God, let me see you." And the stars shine brightly, but the man did not notice. And the man shouted, "Show me a miracle." And a life was born, but the man did not know. So the man cried out in despair, "Touch me, God, and let me know that you were there." Whereupon God reached down and touched the man, but the man brushed the butterfly away and walked on. One of my wife's favorite books is Alice Walker's The Color Purple. You've probably seen the movie starring Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey. In fact, our daughter Olivia is named after one of the characters in this book. There's a famous line in that book that goes, "I think it will torque God off if you will walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it." I think it blanks God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. There's a great story about a wise man sharing with his pupil some of his knowledge. The youngster asked the elder, "When should we stop praying? When should we stop thanking God?" And the response is fantastic. "As long as you have breath, my boy, as long as you are sucking wind, make sure to thank God." We can't retire from our faith life. A story by our bishop explains it so well. I've shared this story with you before. He tells us a time that they were having an evangelistic event at their church that he was serving. And so he was visiting someone in the nursing home, and she wanted to help out, but she physically could not. And so the bishop asked her, can you pray? And she said, yes, I can pray. I'll be praying for that event. Well, a few weeks later, after the evangelistic event was over, the bishop went to go visit that parishioner again, and her first response was, did it help? Because she was praying. She was continuing to suck wind. Sloth. We can never get lazy in our faith life. So what about Gilligan? We have a clip here. We're going to see about the first minute or two of something here on YouTube.
I'm flipping my lid, I tell you. Everywhere I look at water, water, water.
Stop that, Gilligan. It's an order.
Well, I'm sick of orders. I'm sick of the sun and the wind and the spray and the salt.
What are you talking about? We've only been gone 20 minutes.
Gee, is that all?
Now sit down there and start paddling. Dig in, fast.
What do you think they're doing, Professor?
Oh, it's hard to tell. But at least they've had calm seas for the past 3 days.
I hope they'll get through. They've got a good raft, and the skipper's a fine sailor, and, well, Gilligan is. Oh, I hope they'll get through.
Sign of land, sign of ships, no wind, nothing.
Skipper, let's have breakfast.
We have breakfast.
Let's have lunch.
We had lunch.
Let's have dinner.
We had dinner, too. By the way, where are those tropical lays the girls made for us?
I had a snack.
Gilligan, will you stop talking about food?
Okay, Skipper. I wish I had something to drink, like a hamburger or French fries. Hey, I wish there's something to drink, and there's a bottle. Maybe it's soda.
Maybe it's a bottle of beer. There's something in it.
Yeah, the note.
What is it?
Help. We are marooned on a desert island. They spelled maroon wrong.
Let me see that. Gilligan, this is the note that you wrote.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how to spell maroon.
Give me that bottle. We got company.
I sure hope they had 3 meals today.
Where's that shark repellent? Didn't the professor say he was going to make some?
Yeah, it was delicious.
Gilligan, come over here and start paddling.
Okay, that's. It's a funny clip, and we laugh at the antics of Gilligan and the skipper. Now, if we know how the episode goes, if you remember it, Sloth did them in. They failed to be rescued from the island because Gilligan was not focused. He's hungry, he's a bit lazy, he's a goofball, and they didn't make it off the island. Now, when you think about it, if Gilligan had been given into slothfulness, if he had not been the buffoon that we laugh at, there wouldn't be any more episodes. If they actually got off the island, then the network wouldn't run out of advertising dollars. So the show was written so Gilligan would give in to his sloth-filled life and thus keep them on the island. So why is sloth a deadly sin? Well, it doesn't allow us to reach our goal. Sloth keeps us on an island that we may want to get rescued from. In the new year, we may be looking to change some things. Maybe we have a habit that we're trying to get quit. Maybe it's a deadly sin that we want to keep back in the year 2015. If we want to move forward, if we want to get closer to God, if we want to be the better person that we want to be here in the new year, don't let sloth keep you on Gilligan's Island. If you can go ahead and advance that to the next slide. There we go. I want to finish with one of my favorite stories. Mother, can you come see the daffodils before they're over? Came the call in to Mary from her daughter Carolyn. It had been like this for several weeks, but Mary always found a reason not to go. I will come next Tuesday, Mary promised, a little reluctantly, thinking about the 2-hour drive between the two houses. Next Tuesday dawned, cold and rainy. Still, she had promised, and so she drove. When she finally walked into Carolyn's house and hugged and greeted her grandchildren, she said, "Forget the daffodils, Carolyn. The road is invisible in the clouds and fog, and there is nothing in the world except you and these children that I want to see bad enough to drive another inch." Carolyn smiled calmly. "We drive in this all the time, Mother." "Well, you won't get me back on that road until it clears, and then I'm heading for home," Mary assured her. "I was hoping you'd take me over to the garage to pick up my car," came the daughter. "How far will it be to drive?" "Oh, just a few blocks," Carolyn said. "I'll drive. I'm used to this." After several minutes, she had to ask, "Where are we going?" "This isn't the way to the garage." "We're going to my garage the long way," Carolyn smiled, "by way of the daffodils." "Carolyn," Mary said sternly, "please turn around." "It's all right, Mother. I promise you will never forgive yourself if you miss this experience." After about 20 minutes, they turned onto a small gravel road and saw a small church. On the far side of the church was a hand-lettered sign that just read, "Daffodil Garden." They got out of the car and each took a child's hand following down the path. Mary, her daughter Carolyn, and 2 grandchildren turned a corner in the path and looked up and gasped. Before them lay the most glorious sight. It looked as though someone had taken a great vat of gold and poured it down over the mountain peak and slopes. The flowers were planted in majestic swirling patterns, great ribbons and swaths of deep orange, white, lemon yellow, salmon pink, saffron, and butter yellow. Each different color variety was planted as a group so that it swirled and flowed like its own river with its own unique hue. 5 acres of flowers. "But who has done this?" Mary asked. "It's just one woman," Carolyn answered. "She lives on the property. That's her home." Carolyn pointed to a well-kept A-frame house that looked small and modest in the midst of all that glory. They walked up to the house. On the patio was a poster. "Answers to the questions I know you are asking," was the headline. The first answer was a simple one. 50,000 volts, it read. The second answer was, "One at a time, by one woman, 2 hands, 2 feet, and a very little brain." The third answer was, "Began in 1980. There it was, the daffodil principle. It was for Mary a life-changing experience. She thought of this woman whom she'd never met, who more than 35 years before had begun one bulb at a time to bring her vision of beauty and joy to an obscure mountaintop. Still, just planting one bulb at a time year after year had changed the world. This unknown woman had forever changed the world in which she lived. She had created something of ineffable magnificence, beauty, and inspiration. It makes me sad in a way, Mary admitted to her daughter. What might I have accomplished if I had thought of a wonderful goal 35 years ago and had worked away at it one bulb at a time through all those years? Just think what I might have been able to achieve. Carolyn summed up the message of the day in her direct way. Start tomorrow. Start tomorrow. I think many of us have already done that last Friday on the New Year's Day. Today, this year, this is the time to move away from that deadly sin that does not get us closer to God, but in fact moves us farther away. To become a better person, let us remove sloth as one deadly sin. Amen. As our ushers wait upon us, I want to extend a word of